Okay, so he decides that even though Aqaba seems impenetrable, what if, though, you attacked it from the other side, the landward side? Then it would be complete. It's almost defenseless. We might be able to take Aqaba if we attacked it from the other side. However, the other side is open, barren, pitiless desert.
Right.
So the only people that could possibly attack that are like a Bedouin camel army. Well, that's exactly what Lawrence has got, or what Faisal or Abdullah or Zaid are able to give him. You know, what is it? Is it a couple of hundred odd with Alda?
Yes, I think so.
So they go way behind enemy lines, way deep into the desert, to come all the way around. I'll put maps up again, once again, so people can see, to come round to attack Aqaba from the desert, where the Turks would never dream that's a possibility. Even it had never been done before.
Yeah, tactical genius. Yeah, genuinely incredible. But also, again, that thing that only Lawrence, with no fear, no understanding of fear, would dare to lead such an expedition. It's remarkable that did happen. And also, what's more, because when they show it in the film, of course, they go through the Nefud Desert and they arc round into Aqaba. But historically, Lawrence also went on almost like a solo reconnaissance mission as well, just before Aqaba, around near Damascus and around Deraa, and
that's right.
In order to get a feel for the Syrian tribes and whether or not they'd be likely to join in the revolt, and just get an understanding of the circumstances for the upcoming campaign as well, to prepare for the next step in all of it.
And that is almost stupidly fearless, suicidally fearless, because he's not just behind enemy lines. He's way, way, way in pro-Turkish territory where anyone could dob him in to the Turks.
Right.
And he will definitely be tortured and hung if he was caught.
Yeah.
But he just does that. So the thing I want to say at this point, and it's worth mentioning, is like how guilty Lawrence felt about the duplicitous nature of what the French and the British had in mind against what he's telling the Arabs, is that he doesn't even ask permission to do this Aqaba raid.
No.
He just sends a letter, I think, is it Stores again? He sends a letter back
to Clayton, I think.
He sends a letter to Clayton.
Yeah.
And in it, he just says, right, I've decided to do this. He doesn't ask for permission. He says, it's happening, I'm doing this. And he says, quote, hoping to get killed on the way. Like, it's very sang-froid, but also you can tell this is a man that doesn't care anymore.
No.
If he dies, then just so be it, because he's so unhappy with the position he's found himself in politically. So yeah, the idea that he's like this worm tongue type, it's not the case.
No, it's not.
It profoundly affected him. And over the years and the years after the war, it looks like maybe it won't be as bad as he thought it might be, and it ebbs and flows, like the politics of it. But anyway, he was he really is sort of doing suicidally brave things at this point. So there's this long with Alda and a few, I think a couple of hundred, maybe it's a few more, camel, Bedouin, Arab warriors go way out into the desert to come round the back of Aqaba. And on the way, there's one event there, which they show in the movie, where this random nobody, Gassim, gets lost in the desert.
Yeah.
So they leave one morning, the big long camel train, and at some point, Lawrence just realised that one of their guys is missing. And as I say, it's a complete nobody. It's a guy that was actually a bit of a troublemaker.
Lawrence didn't even like him.
He didn't like him.
No.
The plan was, after Aqaba, if he lived, they were going to get rid of him because he was just a bit of a pain and wasn't quite pulling his weight. He wasn't a real bad guy, but he was just, he wasn't of any value.
Yes.
Right? And he's lost in the desert. Apparently that totally happens. And nobody's obliged, apparently it's like the way it is, that you're not obliged to go back and try and find him. It's up to each man to keep yourself alive in the desert. That's the way it is, right? And but Lawrence, because he's Lawrence and a Christian, I suppose, well, they say that in Seven Pillars, he says, no, I felt obliged that I couldn't just let this guy die. I couldn't just leave him to die. So even though it's again, almost a suicidal thing. He goes off on his own back
Mm.
into the desert alone on the off chance that he can find this Gazim, and he luckily does.
Yes.
He comes across him in the desert, sort of half delirious, close to death, really. And he just picks him up, puts him on the back of his camel, and manages to ride back and catch up with the camel train again. Just about. But that was crazy. And when Alda finds out, Alda's like at first pissed off with him, saying, I would not have let you do that if I'd
have known you would go. Yes, because he goes off without saying, doesn't he? Yeah.
He says, this guy, he's not even worth the price of a camel. Like, what are you doing? Like, for Gazim?
Yeah.
For this guy, really? And but then soon it becomes a joke, and Alda's telling anyone that will listen the joke of when Lawrence risked his life to save a nobody.
Mm.
And it totally adds to the legend of Orenz, that the Arabs love him a bit more because he saved a nobody when he was completely not obliged to.
Yeah. It's one of my favourite parts of the film, actually. Obviously, I don't think historical Lawrence is quoted as saying it, but when Lawrence in the film says, nothing is written, I feel like that line just really encapsulates Lawrence. Like that line just says everything about him. Going back to what I was saying about his will, that he could just will things into happening through tenacity
and endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the sheer force of will. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to have a battle of wills with T. Lawrence, because you're not going to win.
No.
It's as simple as that. He will die before giving up on anything, almost anything, when he decides it. Okay, so then I suppose the attack on Aqaba is sort of the big thing. Arguably, I would say it's sort of the most important military movement, sort of the most important single event in terms of sort of battlefield success.
Yes.
Because before they've taken Aqaba and after, from the Arab point of view, the Arab revolt is just night and day. Before, it's just an uphill struggle against the odds, probably going to lose. If the Turks try hard enough, they'll win. To, oh no, we're going to probably win. If we keep pushing this, and the Brits keep helping and giving us money and flour and ammo, and if the Brits push again in Palestine, then all the momentum is with us now.
Right.
It's a game changer, a real big game changer, even though Aqaba is quite a small place.
Yeah.
Relatively small place.
But its location is vital.
Right. On the map,
it
is key. So one thing that the film changes from the book is the attack itself on Aqaba.
Where it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the film, they show you this like glorious camel charge on Aqaba itself.
Yes.
That's not how it went
right
down.
To the coast. But
and that's not how it's described in Seven Pillars, though.
No.
So the way it plays out in Seven Pillars is that there is an engagement with the Turks, but it's outside.
So Abba el Listen, I think.
Yeah.
Down to a track of
a few miles away.
Yeah.
It's a few miles away from Aqaba itself. And that's where there's a camel charge.
Right.
And stuff. And the...
Oh, yeah. You brace it. Well, I bookmarked it because it was just one of my favourite moments. Because
Lawrence is a bit pissed off that Alda and his men aren't doing it fast enough, right?
Right. But one thing I'll just say about this as well is, so the Turks are stationed at Abba el Listen, which is like an oasis. It's in a water point. But the thing is as well, by this point, it's 1917 at this point. Yeah. It's a height of summer, right? Lawrence talks about in Seven Pillars, he talks about the fact it's so hot, they can barely hold their rifles because of how hot the rifles are from the sun and from them firing again and again. And, the Arabs are running from one direction to another, trying to, shoot the Turks from different sides. And they're absolutely exhausted. There'll be hours where they'll just have to sit out because they'll get heat stroke. Lawrence says, for the majority of the battle, he just found the coolest place he could find and could hear the battle going over, in the distance, until Alda finds him. Who's like, I've been fighting all day. What are you doing? And so, Lawrence is like, right, well, okay, we'll get the camels and then
it's
we'll...
like 120 in the shade, isn't it?
Yeah.
And people are dying. Like, it's so baking hot that even a native Arab, like, his retinas are burnt out. This is a slightly different, but it's so bakingly hot. So Lawrence says to him, get it done.
Right.
Basically.
My camel, the Sharia lancer, Nama, stretched herself out and hurled downhill with such might that we soon outdistanced the others. The Turks fired a few shots, but mostly only shrieked and turned to run. The bullets they did send at us were not very harmful, for it took much to bring a charging camel down in a dead heap. I had got amongst the first of them and was shooting, with a pistol of course, for only an expert could use a rifle from such plunging beasts, when suddenly my camel tripped and went down emptily under her face as though poleaxed. I was torn completely from the saddle, sailed grandly through the air for a great distance, and landed with a crash which seemed to drive all the power and feeling out of me. I lay there passively, waiting for the Turks to kill me, continuing to hum over the verses of a half-forgotten poem, whose rhythm something, perhaps the prolonged stride of the camel, had brought back to my memory as we leaped down the hillside. And it goes on, but the point was that actually, even though it sounds like, oh, well, there'd been the volley of fire and, it brought Lawrence's camel down. No, he'd accidentally shot his own camel through the back of the head. The camel had obviously dipped its head in front of his revolver and it just yeeted him into the sand. And it's just an incredible story.
Yeah, that is a great bit. And you can imagine he's lying there in the sand, just been thrown through the sand. He's in the middle of or at the front of a camel charge.
Yeah. He's
expecting all the other camels to, if the Turks don't shoot him, his own camel men will trample him.
Yeah.
But he describes that the rest of the camel charge sort of splits like a sea around him, or they could try and go round the body of the camel and therefore don't trample him. But the picture he paints there is just like humming on the ground, just going, just expecting to die any moment.
Like, gonna die now. Yeah.
But he actually shot his own camel in the back of the head by accident.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.